Hey, I'm Jenna, and I did my IMRAD paper on capital punishment, and the title of it is Fair Justice or Cruel Punishment. The reason that I chose this topic was because for hundreds of years, capital punishment has always been a sensitive matter for Americans to talk about. You get people that say it's a direct violation of the Eighth Amendment, and then you get people that are like, oh yeah, let's murder those that's murdered our friends and family, and it's just a hard subject for most people to comprehend. It was believed that for capital punishment, it was to help take control on the violent crimes that was happening every day, especially murder. I know in the 70s and 80s and even the 60s, we had Ted Bundy and John Wayne Gacy going out and then just slaughtering people just because they thought they could get away with it. For this presentation, I'm going to talk about why I chose this topic, the evidence that supports why we need capital punishment in America, and the results from a survey. I personally have always agreed that we need capital punishment because without it, we would be forking over thousands and thousands of dollars in taxpayer money to make sure that these murderers and rapists and whatever you want to call them are taken care of. I chose this topic because over the last 4 decades, more than 1,300 people have been executed by firing squad, lethal injection, or electric chair. The topic has always made me wonder why it was put into law to begin with, but with my research, it made sense that it is a fair punishment to those who have murdered another person. This specific topic is relevant in today's time because it has been claimed that race determines who receives the death penalty, but according to the research that I have done, there have been more white Caucasians executed than any other race. It has been argued that capital punishment is a direct violation of the Fourth Amendment, but killing someone is against the law. Capital punishment is relevant today because it's only really applied to murder cases. You might get like a treason case every once in a while. That is very rare, but it's usually applied to murder cases. And the relevance of it is to maintain law and order, deter crime, and save taxpayers hundreds of dollars every year. Without capital punishment, taxpayers would pay more money in housing offenders in prison than they would be to help them with government housing. Scholars have said that capital punishment is needed in order to maintain law and order. 55% of Americans agree that capital punishment is the right thing to do when someone has been accused of murder. Since the 1980s, homicide cases have increased to 10.2 cases per 100,000 people. That's a lot. Over the next 40 years, scholars would also discover that number going down, only to go back up to 5.2 per 100,000 people in 2016. We were required for this project to have 3 primary research methods, and we were required to do a survey, figure out if we wanted to do an interview, or try and find some articles or actual evidence supporting our reason behind our topic. And then we did some studying on some scholar journal articles. When I conducted my survey, I asked 10 questions to the students in my English 3000 class. And I got a variety of answers, which some of those were kind of, I guess, it was their own opinion of how they felt about doing stuff. But 88% of the students in this class stated they believe that capital punishment is not fair, but instead a violation of the Eighth Amendment. And I can see where that's coming from because there have been several cases, well, not several. There was a case that I studied a couple of years ago in a class that a gentleman was actually on death row, and the day of his execution, he had an allergic reaction to one of the what they call the lethal cocktail. It was one of the 3 medicines that they use to stop the heart, and he suffered for more than 30 minutes. So I can see where they get that it's a violation of their Eighth Amendment for cruel and unusual punishment. Our second primary source was an interview. I did an interview with a police officer from Murray County, he's told me that based on the amount of murder cases that have come through Murray County in the last, I don't know, 3 years, it helps the family who have lost a child or a sister or a brother or whoever, kind of bring justice to that family and give them closure. And the third research method that we did for this project was to find some scholar journal articles on our topic and present it in our IMRAD paper. All of my research topics explain how capital punishment works in the United States and how it has kept even the sickest serial murderers from being kept alive and actually getting the justice and punishment that they deserved. According to my findings, after the research, interview, and the survey that we did, I would say that 8 out of every 10 Americans believe that capital punishment should be done away with. They believe that because it would fall under the 8th Amendment of cruel and unusual punishment. I think the only change the United States Supreme Court should make to capital punishment is to do away with the lethal injection. There have been several cases where inmates have been injected and have an allergic reaction, causing them to suffer longer, which I agree with that part, but in my personal opinion, I believe that we do need the capital punishment just because of how ridiculous crimes can get. I hope you enjoyed this. Thanks.